of Marcus Garvey. We come to tell them, oh, we say, hey, 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 hey. These are the words of Marcus Garvey. Tell them, we live in a world where them want make we forget we roots and we history. For sure, them can't trick we. Follow the words of Marcus Garvey. Yeah, I like myself. I like myself. I like myself. One God, one aim, one destiny. Africa for Africans black like me. Be is the ones to make yourself free. Emancipate yourself from mental slavery. I like myself. I like myself. I like myself. Confidence in self, believe in self. Knowledge of self is what we want. Confidence in self, believe in self. Don't say we can't. Love for me in the world when of the storm. Believe in self, believe in self. Them kick with it, then we now getting warm. Believe in self, believe in self. Up your mighty ways and do what you will. The African knowledge, power and skill. Somebody tell them for me. These are the words of Marcus Garvey. I like myself. I like myself. I like myself. Hey, these are the words of Marcus Garvey. We come to tell them, oh, we say, hey, 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 hey. These are the words of Marcus Garvey. Warn them. Confidence in self, believe in self. Knowledge of self is what we want. Confidence in self, believe in self. Don't say we can't. Just be black by black and think black. Believe in self, believe in self. And let the young pressers worry about that. Believe in self, believe in self. Up your mighty ways and do what you will. The African knowledge, power and skill. Somebody tell them for me. These are the words of Marcus Garvey. I like myself. I like myself. I like myself.
Good afternoon, Facebook. We are coming to you live again. I am Marcia Weeks, and you're watching the Marcia Weeks Show. And we come to you live every Wednesday at 1 p.m. AST, which is also EST. Here we are, the Marcia Weeks Show, and I am Marcia. I'm going to ask you to share. I'm going to just take a couple minutes, just not too long, for you to actually share for us, and let someone know that we're on. Let someone know that we're on. So if you can just do that, and I'm just going to ask all my assistants to share the Marcia Weeks Show on my personal page, please. I'm going to ask Ms. Graves to go ahead and share it on my personal page. I think there are some people who are not yet signed up to the Marcia Weeks Show who would naturally go to my page. Again, please share. This is a good time. We want to welcome those who are on. Oh my goodness. Those who are on, there are lots of people who were here last week who are on this week again. And we believe that we're going to have a very enlightening show for you. This is the Marcia Weeks Show, and I am Marcia Weeks, coming to you live from Barbados. Wonderful Barbados. So I'm going to ask you to share the Marcia Weeks Show, coming to you live from Barbados, and we We are also live at this moment on Caribbean. Caribbean is in 16 different Caribbean countries, both English and Spanish speaking. And we're going to, those of you who are at home, again, we're happy to have you. Those who are in the room, thank you for coming in the room here with us on Zoom. If you're watching us and you want to be cozy with us and come into the room, you can join the discussion on Zoom at 603-691-241. That is the Zoom ID number, 603-691-241. Is how you can come into the room and join in the discussion. If you want to be cozy, you can still join online as well. On the Marcia Weeks show on Facebook, like the page, and you'll be able to watch the show there, or once it's shared on my personal page, you'll be able to watch it there as well. Want to send us some information, you can do it at info@themarciaweekshow.com, info@themarciaweekshow.com for any questions or comments that you might have. All right. So again, just please share. This is important information. The lost tribes of Israel taken from Africa, right? In Africa, taken to the Caribbean. All right. So, and for a lot of us, this is like, what? What do you mean lost tribes of Israel? The only time we normally hear about anything about lost tribes of Israel is through the Rastafari community. And here we are discussing that today and looking at the heritage of Black people and the history of Black people in the Bible. And it's exciting. It's not anything about hate at all. We're not here hating on anybody. It's all about love. It's all about us loving ourselves and understanding why. Well, why is it that we didn't know about this all this time? You know, and so we're here to look at it today. And thank you again for being here. So we have with us today, you're seeing this wonderful lady here with me, Saram Adzanku. And Adzanku, I'm learning to to pronounce. Sorry, all these African names. You know, like my little boring one, Marcia. But this is Saram Adzanku. And Saram Adzanku was born and raised in Ghana, and her family is from the Volta region in Ghana. She lived and attended school in Accra, Ghana, Bamako, Mali, and Lome, and Togo. She speaks 5 languages, y'all. That's the thing with our African brothers and sisters. They speak a lot of different languages. You know, I'm only English and Jamaican patois. I can't even speak the Bajan too good. But she speaks 5 languages: Ewe, English, Twi from the Akan tribe, French, and Spanish. Attended university in the United States, obtaining a master's degree in leadership and management in nursing. Although she always had an interest in African history, her awakening to her Hebrew identity didn't come about until a little over 2 years ago. So we want to welcome Miss Saram Adzanku with us here on the show today. And today we're looking at the lost tribes of Israel in Africa, taken to the Caribbean. So Miss Saram Adzanku, if you could open your microphone. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Miss Marcia. Thank you so much for having me here. I am blessed and I consider myself highly favored. And I thank God for you and for what you do, and you and your husband, and for what you all do. And I greet all the people of the Caribbean and everyone watching us online. I greet you all with the love of the Lord. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. And what I love about your story, Sarah, is that you, as someone from the Everett tribe, you know, you would have heard your mom, you know, telling you about this Hebrew history all along. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, actually, we don't typically grow up hearing our parents talk about it. I didn't. So that's why I didn't know until a little over 2 years ago. Because, the names have changed. We have our African names, our ancient Hebrew names, but those aren't the exact names that we find in the biblical or other religious texts. So that causes us not to readily identify those names when we read the Bible. But there are some names that we do identify. But somehow, for me personally, it didn't take my mind there when I encountered names that I said, oh, Eli is spelled Eli. Well, I have a cousin named Ellie. It never clicked. It never clicked. My brother is named Elikim, and that's Eliakim, and it never clicked. It just happens. And I think that is by Yah's divine design. He has a set time of appointment for everything. And so if the time is not right, no matter how you look at it, you're not going to see what needs to be seen. So I think in his own time, he allowed me to see, he allowed others to come out with the information, and there seems to be a global awakening going on.
Yes, it is. It's a global awakening. And I remember, hearing from the Rastafari community about, the Black presence in the Bible. And I would literally just I don't want even to hear it. But as you said, there is such an awakening because you're so afraid that you might lose your faith if you start to believe some of these things, But
Right.
Here we are today. So you can jump right in. I know you have a wonderful presentation for us, so just jump right in.
Sure, thank you. I just wanted to comment. You said being so afraid you might lose your faith, and that's a good point. So, my advice to everyone coming to the knowledge is, if you have faith, let me say, especially if you have faith in Christ, you believe in the New Testament and all that, don't throw your faith away at the first sign of someone telling you that that book belongs to someone else other than you. Let's hold on a minute and see the whole story as it is. This awakening is not over. We're all still learning. I am still learning. I learn new things every day. So let's just hold on and let's just digest the information, and let's not make any rash decisions. It will be a double loss if we were to first lose our identity, then regain it, only to lose our salvation. So what's the point of even gaining our identity? So I would just encourage you to just hold on, digest the information, and pray about it. Ask the Most High to show you the truth of His word. All right, so thank you. I will get into the presentation now.
And while she's setting up, I'm going to ask us to share again. Keep sharing and let somebody, be able to get enlightened today as well. I think it's important. So keep sharing, share the link. They could come on right in. Again, welcome to everybody who's here on Zoom and those of you who are watching on Facebook. I see some people here who were here last week. All right. So yes, go ahead, Saram.
All right, so this is the Ewe people on the so-called slave coast of West Africa. And you understand why I call it so-called. It was actually labeled, the area where they're situated was actually labeled the slave coast. And that is exactly where most of the people who were taken to other lands out of Africa came from those areas. So you have countries on the West Coast, yes, on the West Coast of Africa, on the southern West Coast of Africa, that was labeled the slave coast. So we will get right into it. All right, so let's start from the basics. Let's go back to why they ended up in Africa in the first place. So we know that Israel went through many captivities, slavery, and exiles. There's been a lot of devastation that has happened, and it occurred over time. There were different invasions. There was the Babylonian invasion and captivity. There was the Persian. There were the Crusades. The Arabs invaded, and we have the War of 70 AD. Now, so every time there was a captivity or invasion, where did the people go? They fled to Egypt. They fled to Ethiopia. Africa was the west coast of Africa, west and southwestern, was known as Ethiopia at some point in time. And where we know as Ethiopia today was Abyssinia.
Interrupt you there just a little bit. So we're saying that before they got to, before Africans got to Egypt and Ethiopia and all these different places in Africa, that they were in Israel. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Well, we have the Exodus from Egypt to start with. And once Israel once they got on their own and actually settled in the promised land, there were many invasions that caused them to go back into Egypt, to go back into Ethiopia. So from there, then they dispersed west and southwestern mostly. There are some in the Eastern Africa and South Africa as well. So we know this also because the West African oral histories corroborate this story. Most of the ethnic groups on that coast will tell you that they came from the Northeast. So somebody's got to be telling the truth, right? They can't all be lying. They have these oral traditions that date back centuries, and they say they came from the Northeast. So there is truth, there is major truth to that.
And let me another question, because I want us to go slow to make sure we understand. So when you say that the oral history says that they came from the Northeast, geographically, where is that?
So the Northeast is where we know as Egypt and Israel. Now, all these are part of Africa. They're actually on the tectonic plate of Africa, the same tectonic plate as Africa. So it's really technically Africa, but that place is called the Middle East today.
So where they're saying that they're from, it's really where the Middle East is.
Right.
And so your oral history tells you that you're from the Northeast, which
yes,
in today right now it's the Middle East.
Yes, exactly. Okay. That whole area is branded as the Middle East today.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So Israel's favorite sanctuary is Egypt. Abraham went to Egypt. We know that from Genesis chapter 12. Jacob and his family went to Egypt during famine and resettled there. We know that from Genesis 46 to 47 and Exodus 1. Hebrews fled to Egypt during multiple invasions, as I said. Now, the prophet Jeremiah prophesied about Israel disobeyingly fleeing to Egypt again, and how that would cause them and Egypt to fall together. And that's in Jeremiah 42 to 43. Also, now let's go fast forward to the New Testament. In Matthew chapter 2, Joseph was directed to take Mary and Jesus and flee to Egypt. Israel was surrounded by enemies. If you look at the land on the north, they were surrounded by their enemies. You had the Greeks and Romans. And then on the eastern side, you had more warring groups that were always afflicting them. So the only place where they could safely run to was Africa, what we know as Africa.
Okay.
And there's another reason why they would go there. It's because they looked like the locals. They blended in. They didn't have the pale skin as their other neighbors who were afflicting them.
So let me ask you something. So when you say, Saram, that they went to Egypt, Okay, this was when everything was considered it was all together, and that's the area that's called the Middle East today.
Right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Just want to make sure that I understand. And when they went, you're saying that they blended in with the locals there.
Exactly. They blended in with the locals.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So Egypt was a good hiding place. Africa as a whole was a good hiding place for the ancient Hebrews. Because they looked like
so
them.
If they blended in, you're therefore inferring what? If they blended in, what are you saying?
As in their genetic features, they look, they have the same type of features as the Egyptians, as the Africans. They have the same skin color and different shades of skin color. Now, even take, for example, the scripture in Genesis 42, verse 8. We have Joseph's brothers going to Egypt. They see him. They're standing there in front of Joseph, but they couldn't recognize him.
So you're saying, because it's when I listen to your broadcast on YouTube, then I started to really think about that. So Joseph's brothers. I always wondered that, why didn't they recognize him?
Right.
So they didn't recognize him because he blended in.
Yeah, he looked like the Egyptians. If he was a different shade, if he was a different color than the Egyptians, they would have known, because we have evidence of the ancient Egyptians painting themselves as Black and brown people.
So you're saying that they were people of color. These people were people of color. And I don't know, those of you listening, I remember going to Sunday school, and I mean, the images I have in my mind are people that don't look like me. So it's, even hearing this Jesus, Mary, Joseph, that they blended in with the locals.
Yep.
So we're saying, Saram is saying here that they would have to be people of color. Okay, continue, please.
That's the only way that his brothers wouldn't have recognized him. If he was a different color, even if he had Egyptian clothing on, they would have still known that this man does not belong here, right? But they didn't. They just thought he was one of the Egyptians. Now, also, we have in Matthew chapter 2, as I mentioned before, Mary and Joseph and Jesus being in Egypt, hiding. The only way they could have hidden from the adversary, from the soldiers, from taking Jesus and killing him, was that they would have blended in with the locals. We also have an incident in Acts chapter 21, verse 36 to 39, where the Roman soldiers, mistook Paul for an Egyptian.
I remember that.
Yes.
But you kind of skip over that. So you're saying that it would have had to be his physical features. And
absolutely. Yes. It would have had to be his physical features. Exactly. Now, here I was fortunate enough to visit a traveling Egypt display. This was in Cincinnati, at the Cincinnati Museum Center in 2019. So I just went there, and they had an Egypt display, and they had these authentic Egyptian art and sculptures displayed. And it was room after room after room after room of Black people, African descended people. They look like you and me. Ancient Egyptians painted themselves as Black people. The Caucasian features, sometimes we do see some pictures of lighter pale skin mummies or images. Now, we have to pay attention to some of these images that we see, because if you take this image that is labeled B on the screen, I don't know if you see my cursor.
Yes, I do.
Okay, yes. So that looks like a pale skinned person. However, if you look at the hair, this is Afro hair. Now, if you look really at the painting, you will see that it's simply that the color has faded over time, either over time or during the processing by archaeologists. So if you look at the abdomen area, you'll see still some shades of brown on the legs as well. On the sides, you still see some shades of brown. So even those images and sculptures that are seemingly Caucasian looking, we have to look at the details. They're usually not Caucasian looking. And if they are Caucasian looking, they are usually later images. They're not as old as the ancient Egyptians.
What would cause, the Caucasian features? You said they came later. Could you go into that a little bit? Why those features would have come later?
Yes, because we know just as Israel had invasions, Egypt also had invasions. Egypt was run by foreigners as well. The Greeks, the Romans, and other foreigners took over Egypt, and even today we have Arabs in Egypt now. So that is why some of those features would have changed, because initially when the Greeks took over, they intermarried with the people at the top so that they can balance the power and eventually you take over the power. The same with the Romans. So you'll find pale-skinned people being pharaohs or pharaohs' wives, or so on and so forth. Okay. So that's where you would get the mixing and the lightening of the people, to the point where today the indigenous Egyptians are now mostly pushed out there. When you see Egyptians on TV nowadays, you hardly ever see really pure African looking people. You'll mostly see light skinned people, Arabs, or mixed Arab and Black. Okay. The original people in the Bible period, especially in the Old Testament period, would have been just as dark as this lady carrying a pot, looking like how I used to carry a pot when I was younger, how my mother carries a pot. Just recently, my mother had unloaded some things from the car, and she had a bag of rice on her head and balanced it just like this lady and wasn't touching it with her hands. And an American lady saw her and started laughing. We still do this thing today, and it's not only specific to Egypt. Israel does it. If you look at a lot of the things that were found in Israel, as far as archaeology, like things that were used in domestic life, you'll see that it's quite the same as the ones that are used in Egypt.
So to just summarize for those who are just watching, because we're taking it slow today and making sure we understand it carefully. So you're saying to us that the people who are in the Old Testament, in the scripture, in the Bible, that us in the Caribbean, that's how we came to Christianity, through the Bible. Right. But we're being, what you're saying to us here, this is Saram Adzanku from Ghana, from the Ewe tribe, and she's saying that the studies have shown that those in the Old Testament were people of color. And that is why, for example, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph could have hidden themselves in Egypt. And that over time, we're seeing lighter features, lighter, Egyptians lighter in complexion. The Egyptians that we see now, it is because they began to intermarry. When after we had the invasions, then they started to marry, and they would marry from the top, the pharaoh. So then that's where we begin to see the lighter complexion. Is that what we're saying, Sarah?
That's absolutely right. And sister, that has not changed so much. Now it is the lightening has taken on an economic approach. instead of invasion and war. Now we are, there are people all over brown and black skinned people all over the world are doing things such as selling their land to foreigners, and before you know it, if you take, for example, South Africa, it's no longer a surprise to see a South African and they're completely Caucasian, right? And the same thing is happening all around us. So it's the same kind of things going on. It's just a different approach. It's an economic approach now, political approach, and not so much invasion and war. But that's a lesson for another day. We probably should stick to this. All right. So let me tell you about the Ewe people. It is pronounced Ewe. The way you pronounce the name, you purse your lips, you blow air while creating a vibration sound. So it sounds like this, V, V. Now, the Europeans couldn't pronounce our name that way, so they couldn't make the V sound. So they wrote our name EWE and started calling us Ewe. So if you do a Google search, you would need to use Ewe, EWE, in order to find anything about us. But that's not our name. Ewe is a female she. The French also pronounced our name Eve, and that's not our name either. It is Eve. Okay. Now, the Ewes are some of the ancient Hebrews. Actually, we have Hebraic history and culture in our history and culture. A lot of our oral tradition actually comes right out of the Bible, literally. And we practice still a lot of the customs of the Bible. Now, another key thing is that the Ewes still speak the ancient Hebrew language. They actually speak the language that the Bible was originally in. And we know this because even though the Bible has gone through many translations, the names mostly have not changed. So we are able to find names of people and places in the Bible, and we can clearly see that this is Ewe. So, and if we have time later in the show, I can go through a couple for you. But today, the Ewe speaking people mainly are found in Ghana, Togo, southern Benin, and southwestern Nigeria. Those are the ones that are still united by language. Now, we have so many of our relatives who are scattered all over Africa and to the four corners of the world, because the original name of the people, the Ewe, is actually what became the word Hebrew. If you do an etymology search for Hebrew, you will find that the root word of that word is Eber or Ever, or Ever, Ever or Eber. Just try and do a Strong's search for Eber, and you'll find that Abraham was the first person called that. And that name actually, according to the Dictionary of Etymology, that name is what became what we now pronounce as Hebrew. So the people still call themselves Ewe. They don't call themselves Hebrew. This is one of the reasons why we don't necessarily readily find ourselves in the Bible, because some names have changed. Some names have changed. But if we really take a look at it and compare the Bible context and culture, we can clearly see what they're saying. And the meanings that we have of the biblical names actually line up with the biblical context.
So
now the history. Yeah, go ahead.
Sarah, that Ewe is really the genesis of the word Hebrew. That's where the word Hebrew comes from.
Hebrew is a late Old English word. And I think, if I remember correctly, its genesis was in the 1600s. That I believe so. It's fairly new. It wasn't always that name, that word, Hebrew.
Interesting. And Abraham that we know of in the scripture was he was the first he was from this tribe, the Ewe tribe.
Yes. So all the people who stem from Abraham's seed of promise, let me be clear, the seed of promise, because when the Bible refers to Hebrew, they're always talking about the seed of promise, which is in Isaac and Jacob and the 12 tribes, the 12 sons. So all those people are referred to in the Bible as Hebrew. So that lets us know that those people who are really Ewe are the ones that stem from Abraham's seed of promise. So the 12 tribes of Israel are called, their proper name is Ewe and not Hebrew.
Hey, wow. Interesting.
Mm-hmm. I recently I was on a women's history event with Dr. Only Love Alston just last week. And just this past Sunday, actually, and I spoke in depth about this name, Evan, and she actually posted my speech on her blog page on her website, which is propheticwhirlwind.com, propheticwhirlwind.com. And I think if people go there, they will really understand exactly what I'm talking about, because right today, I don't think the time permits us to really go into depth so much. So the history in Ewe culture is passed down through oral tradition, which is retold during family gatherings and festivals. As I said, the European explorers have on numerous occasions documented without admitting that the customs of the Ewes are Hebraic. I even have one reference, it's in French, thank Yah that I speak French and I can read it, where the author, this reference was, this author wrote this in the 1700s, and he lists several of our Hebraic customs as Ewes, and still at each point makes it a point to say that, but these people are not Hebrews, because they are brutes and they're uncivilized. So you have that going on. Nevertheless, those books still present irrefutable evidence of our identity as a whole. And from this Ewe, from the seed of Abraham, is where those people who, like yourself, who are in the Caribbean, are in America, are in the UK, and all the other isles in the four corners of the world, those people stem from Ewe. And the remnants of them are in Africa today, mostly in sub-Saharan Africa, on the so-called slave coast of West Africa.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. This is groundbreaking information that I would never have thought that I would be here trying to imagine that Abraham could have been a person of color. I don't know about the people in the room right now, but this is groundbreaking information. I mean, Joseph, Mary, oh Lord Jesus. Oh boy.
Everybody. Even if some were albino, they would still have been Black people.
Could you repeat that?
I said, even if someone was albino, they would still be Black. Albinism doesn't change your race. Albinism is just a condition. It doesn't make you a different race. You're still Black, even if you're albino.
End of it. I know time is against us, and I know we want to finish, but I want you to. We're going to talk about exactly why this was hidden from us. But continue, please.
Okay. All right. So one of the telltale evidences that we have as an Ewe people, as I mentioned, is our oral tradition. we speak of an exodus in our oral tradition, and we actually commemorate this exodus. The Ewe people celebrate an exodus each year. They're aware that there are exilic people who came from far away. They will tell you they came from the northeast and sojourned in Abyssinia. Their most celebrated exodus today is their exodus out of a place called Noche to their present locations along the coast of West Africa. They settled on the so-called slave coast. Now, it's very interesting. In oral tradition, we have the storytellers often will skillfully make a name out of the story or out of the legacy of the person they're speaking about. So a lot of times you'll find names of places that we say we've sojourned or we say we stayed. You'll find the whole story wrapped in that name. And you will see in this next slide, which is a map that this is a growing map. There are more names. I just haven't had the time to add them to the map. Let's start the map from the northeast in that place which is popularly known as Israel today. The original name is Cana. In Ewe, Cana means the soil yields. It means it is a fertile soil. So this name is telling you the whole story of Cana, which is that the soil was extremely fruitful. The Bible even tells us that it took 2 grown men to carry a cluster of grapes in the time of Joshua and Caleb when they went to spy out the land.
Please, bear with us here in the Caribbean, because a lot of this is new to a lot of us. There are some people I'm seeing on Facebook who knew about this before. So please bear with us. So Cana, you're saying, is there in where right now where we call Israel, Canaan.
That's correct. And that's what we call Canaan, right?
And it says, and usually, there's a meaning for names that we've come to know that about Africa. And Kana means the soil yields. And so, yes, and can you take it from there?
Yes. So the land was extremely fruitful. And so we have that name. Now, the next name on the map is down in the location of where we know as Egypt today. It's also known as Mizraim in the Bible, but it's also known as Kemet. Kemet in the Ewe language means in within the sand. That is Ewe. Now, going down to the Sudan area, there's a place that it was called Khartoum. Well, nowadays you will barely find the name even this Khartoum, because now it is mostly, a lot of the names are in Arabic. So it's, if you don't speak Arabic or know how to write it, it's difficult for you to even identify. But that place we know as Ketume. Ketume means in the bowels of the sand, in within the sand. The next place, which is in the middle of the map, is named Seme. This Seme in Ewe means within the law. It means we are trying our best to be within the law. Now, this Seme also showed up in a book that is called Africa, An Accurate Description by John Ogilvie. And this book was written, I want to say the late 1600s, probably 1700s. But John Ogilvie was a chronicler of the king of England, I believe. So, and he actually specifically says that there were Jews in Seme, people of Hebraic descent in Seme. And he actually marked Seme as being from Abyssinia all the way down to this line, that's the equinoctial line, which you find in the DRC, all the way down to the Kingdom of Benin on the west. So this whole place at some point was called Seme. Today, there is a town called Seme in between the border of Nigeria and Benin in present day Africa now. Now, the next place that we say we sojourned is called Ile Ife or Ife, and that's a Yoruba word. The Yorubas are kin to the Ewes. and they're also Hebrews. They're also Ebes. The Igbos are also Hebrews. They have a lot of evidence actually also in their oral tradition and documented evidence, and in their customs and culture as well. Now, and from Ife, and actually, let me go back to Ife. This is in Nigeria. There was a sultan named Mohammed Bello. The time period may have been in the sixth. I don't want to get it wrong, but it was before before transatlantic slave trade, before the colonization of the African people as a whole. So this Mohammed Bello was a sultan of the whole kingdom in the northern part of this Nigeria. And he did actually write that there were Jews in the southern part of his kingdom. In the southern part of his kingdom. So that's another evidence for us. Now, going further west into Benin, we have two names. We have Ketu, which clearly you can see is a name that we had before, which is in the Sudan area, the Nile area, the Nile Valley, which is Ketume. We just imported that back here into Benin. And then we also imported the name Kana. You have Kana from the original place. We have it here. And there's still Kana and Ketu still on the map today. Now, from there, we mentioned a place called Tadu. Tadu means the head has arrived. And that just tells us that there were people who went ahead of the royal family. And once the royal family got to this point of their sojourn, then they named the place that the head has arrived. And then there's another, and this is in Togo, Benin border. And then there's another place in Togo that is called Noche, which is another place we say that we sojourned. And then the last place on this map is called Keta, and it means on top of the sand. So if you notice a trend, we like to say Ket a lot because we like to mention the soil in our names, right? So you have Kana, Keme, Ketu, Ketu, Kana, and Keta, right? So that tells us, and all these names have their meaning as I explained in the Ewe language. There are other names as well. There are actually two towns of Judah that I know of that were listed in the Bible as towns of Judah that are found in Togo and Ghana right now. And then there is another town that was also Judah that's found in Benin right now. I just haven't put those on the map yet. That will come. I will release those in time on my YouTube page or on Facebook.
So hold on, Saram, I'm interrupting you again. So looking at all those on that map, right? What does that say to us? Can you summarize it for us? All these names of these different places. What does that tell us about the Black presence in the Bible, in the Old Testament? What does that tell us?
That tells us that our sojourn, our migration as a people, migration and exile, let me say, lines up with the Bible. Because there is a scripture, I don't have the verse off the top of my head right now, but it says that that my elect will bring my offering from beyond the rivers of Ethiopia. And beyond, now the Nile is the great river, and that actually goes all the way down to Ethiopia. I believe it starts from Ethiopia. This area, starts in this area. And beyond that is here and possibly, definitely here as well. So you have sub-Saharan Africa. And what's very interesting also is that all the places that we have people who identify, Black people who identify as being Hebrews today, they come from all the green areas. They come from all the green areas. You won't find them so much in the desert areas. You won't find them so much in the very cold areas up in the north outside of Africa. but you will find them all along the coast, going down to the west, southwestern, and even into the east and south and southern.
Wow. So Saram, they were coming from Canaan or Cana and coming all the way down.
All the way down. And then you have several other tribes also that went down. So you have even the Lembas who say that they're Hebrews. You have Hebrews in the Congo who say that they're people in the Congo who say that they're Hebrews. I remember Sister Minister Oni Love, when she was speaking with you the other day, mentioned that there was actually a queen in the Congo who, even before colonization, knew that she was Hebrew, knew that she was Epe, and actually believed in Christ even before the arrival of the missionaries.
Wow, 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 wow. This is mind blowing. Thank you so much. Thank you. And we're going to go on. I know it's close to 1 o'clock, but we're going to keep going.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right, so this is another map. Now, note the date on here. This is 1747, and the cartographer is named Emmanuel Bowen. And this map actually points to the kingdom of Judah. And right down there, it says Slave Coast. It says Slave Coast. Now, this, let me tell you, this may have been 1747, but at some point, all of that coast of West Africa and also down into Southwestern were all being taken as slaves, including the Gold Coast. The Gold Coast at some point, because they were a little further inland, they didn't, in the beginning, receive the brunt of the slave conquest, but then eventually they were also victims of it. And so you have all this whole area, which is, you see Upper Guinea, there is a Lower Guinea, that's where the Congo and Angola and all those are. Now, all the Guineas were, the people on in the Guinea coast were all subject to slave raids. So
you said this to us here in the Caribbean. You're basically, Saram, you're basically saying that that some of us are of Hebrew origin because we would have come down from Cana and come down to the West Coast, right?
Absolutely, right. And most of you, because now what's very interesting is that the slaving organizations, they knew who everybody was, and they had already learned how to do the slave trade through the Arab slave trade, because remember, before the transatlantic slave trade, there was the Arab slave trade and Islamization of the entire Africa, and it was creeping in from the north down to the coast. So those people were already being taken, and also on the east side, on the east coast, they were already being taken into slavery even before the transatlantic slave trade. So the key people were in place. So when the key players in the transatlantic slave trade came, they just had to make deals with those who were already experienced, who were the Arabized northern part of the African nomads, who used them to conduct slave raids. That's why they were that's how they were able to fill entire slave ships, entire ships with people. So they knew exactly who they were taking, and so that's why I say most of you are actually Israelites, are actually Ebes, the Hebrews.
This is this is I'm still processing it. And interesting. So we came from Ghana and came down. And
Yes.
I know that when I was in Ghana, they did tell me that the Ewe people They experienced, they were most enslaved than any other group, is what I was told in Ghana, but I didn't understand
Right.
the fullness of it.
They were the ones who are the Ewe speaking. At some point, they had a strong kingdom at one point, but somehow during the transatlantic slave trade area, they seem to have been weakened, and so they had strong kingdoms around them. They had the Ashanti on the Gold Coast, and then they had the Dahomey on this side, on the in the Benin coast. And neither of them want to be the ones taking them to slavery. So if the Europeans come looking for slaves, guess who they're gonna get? They're gonna capture the ones that are close to the sea coast, and they're gonna sell. Well, they're gonna give them or sell them, if you must say, to the Europeans. From the evidence that I have read, it is not, it is mostly slave raids that happened. There was some selling going on from the strong kingdoms, but then eventually those kingdoms also became enslaved and colonized, because eventually it became, do it or else.
Wow.
Yeah, and now another thing we have to note is that slavery in African perspective, especially in Ewe, is not an atrocity. It's nothing like what occurred in Arab slave trade and in transatlantic slave trade. We in our customs and culture, we have slaves. However, a slave can marry into the family. A slave person is not less than human. Their offsprings are not your slaves. It's more like a servitude. And there are traditional laws in place that forbid you from committing certain atrocities against your slave. You can't just go and murder your slave, because we frown upon murder. We frown upon murder of people. So, that kind of slavery is foreign to the Africans. So if you have kingdoms who were willing to sell war captives or people who they had captured who were weaker than their kingdom, they wouldn't have necessarily understood the kind of slavery that they were going into.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm just stunned. Wow, we can go on some more. Let's continue. Oh,
Okay.
my goodness.
Now, so this here, you've heard, I'm sure everyone has heard about the Amazon warriors of the Dahomey Empire. These were women warriors. And they gave the French armies a heck of a time, because they beat them on so many occasions. However, the last time that they were able to do that was in 1892, where they waged the last war and they lost. And so then that was the demise of the Dahomey kingdom. And so the French got a medal for their, being finally able to defeat the Dahomey women warriors. And on this medal, you can see even the town Kana is mentioned here. Kana is mentioned. And Kana is also around the same place that Emmanuel Bowen labeled as Judah, in West Africa.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
Now, another interesting thing is that this coin that you see here is actually it's a coin that the British made for their West African colonies. And interestingly enough, they couldn't find anything else to put on there except Solomon's seal, which now we see that on the Jewish flag. We see that, representing Israel as a whole, and all that. And the places where they were using this coin was in Ghana, Nigeria, Sierra Leone, and Gambia, all places where they took people from.
Wow.
So they knew something about who you were and who the people on those coasts are.
Wow.
Right. Can I go into the kete?
Yes, please, please, please.
Okay. All right. So I was telling you I would talk about the our culture as well. So this cloth that you see here is called well, we call it vedo, but I'll explain it. But you know it as kente, so we'll go with that. So kete is worn and woven by many people in West Africa. Eve kete is known for its quality and durability. It's a family heirloom. The oldest surviving kete cloth today are Eve kete. Kete in Eve is ke or kenate, which means part it and beat it. That's simply describing the process that the cloth was they used to weave the cloth. So they part the thread and they put the loom through and they beat it down to make these tight to make the tight weaving. And that's what you know now as kente. The real name of the cloth is vedo. Again, it has the name of the in it, that is Eve, right? And it means Eve cloth. It means Eve cloth. These are these pictures you see here are in A and B. You'll see fabric from Egypt, over 2,000 years old fabric. And then you'll find fabric from Israel, which is over 2,000 years old. These are Eve kete, their vedo. In Exhibit A, you'll see a blue and white vedo, which looks, if you look at the weaving pattern and even the design, it looks just like the Israel fabric. It looks just like that. And even you'll see the same lines, the same designs in the Egypt fabric.
Mm. So go back to the pictures for me, please. So this one here, this was found, they said was found in Israel.
In C, Exhibit C was found in Israel, and they dated it to be over 2,000 years old.
Okay.
The same with A and B that were found in Egypt. You know, Egypt and Israel, their history, they're like twins pretty much, right? Because Israel lived in Egypt for over 100 years. They lived there for a long time. 400 years. Some say 400 years. There's a debate. I've encountered some debates, but anyway, the idea is that they lived there for a long time. So Israel would have influenced Egyptian culture, and Egyptian culture would have influenced Israel culture. So you'll find a lot of things that are similar, such as the design pattern of this cloth, just as the one they found in Israel.
In any case, they all looked alike. It was
they looked alike. Yeah. They looked alike and they behaved alike for the most part.
They were both people of color.
That's right. And then you see here the Eve cloth, vedo. The Exhibit A, you'll find the blue and white vedo. Exhibit B is a multicolored vedo. And Exhibit C is a blue and white fringed vedo. And these pictures are from a website called Adair African Textiles. Now in Eve, in the Eve culture, anybody can wear vedo or kete, but the multicolored cloth is reserved for royalty. That represents richness, and it represents royalty.
So hold a minute, hold a second here, because so A, we see A, something that looks like A is what we see now the people in modern day Israel use as a prayer shawl, actually.
Exactly. Yep.
So you're telling
you are 100% right, because you see the Bible is our history and cultural book as a whole. For us,
say that again. You're saying that for the people in Africa, the Bible is their history book?
The Bible is our history and culture book. Now, the people who take it as a religion, they're making our culture and history into a religion. The Bible is our history book. If you want to know what your ancestors did, who they were, just read the Bible.
Oh my goodness. So this cloth here, that is a prayer shawl that we see the modern day Jews wearing, that it really came from the Ebe people.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
So here,
because I've seen people that look like me with the shawl, and I'm like, why do they keep wearing that Jewish thing? You know,
right. And it's going on. Being that we there is the awakening going on. Now we know that yes, this information is true. Now, how to go back in line with the Most High? So all efforts are being made to try and go back in line with God, so that we stop suffering the consequences that are listed in Deuteronomy 28.
Okay, continue, please. It's still, my head is still going. My head is still going. Oh my goodness. Oh my Lord.
Excuse me. All right. So so the kente cloth, or the vedo, has a lot of significance. Traditionally, the cloth is woven by men. The cloth is woven by men. Women, they weave also, but the general duty of weaving is to the man. The women spin the cotton or the yarn or whatever substance they have at the time. They do the spinning, and the men weave the cloth. It is the man's responsibility to clothe his family. This is the understanding. The color and design have significance. Actually, let me reverse a little bit. It is the man's responsibility to clothe the family. So a man would be weaving cloth for his entire family, his wife, his children, his mother, and anybody that he likes, really. So if a man finds his wife in another man's cloth, he knows he didn't weave your cloth that you're wrapping around to yourself, then you're going to be in trouble, so it's very interesting. So the colors and the design have significance. As I mentioned, the cloth of many colors is reserved for royalty. Even like a farmer, for example, might wear a green vedo or green kete. A farmer might wear that. You wear the cloth because you're speaking you're telling a story. So you're in the farmer wearing a green one. He is pretty much saying, I am wishing for lush green vegetation. I am wishing for a season of harvest and things like that. The Hebraic connection, Jacob in the Bible in Genesis 37 wove a cloth of many colors for his son Joseph. We know about this story. If you don't know, please go and read that in Genesis 37. And this cloth of many colors is, as I said, is reserved for royalty in ancient times. Now, Jacob would have already been weaving cloth for his entire family. The difference is that he wove the many colors cloth for his son Joseph. And in Ewe tradition, Ewe custom, the eldest son has the more authority than anyone else. And we know Joseph was not the eldest son. So by Jacob weaving Joseph this cloth of many colors, he is actually indirectly saying that he is confirming Joseph's dreams of being leader over his brothers. He is indirectly crowning Joseph as king over his brothers. So this is why the brothers would have been jealous and they would have hated him.
Hold a minute. So all the time, I always wondered, what about this cloth of many colors? And so it was very significant. It was saying that he basically telling him that he's going to be leader, and that's why they
absolutely.
And why would and you explain why would his father be weaving the cloth? Because that's what the African people would do, what the Hebrews would do, right?
Right.
The
yes.
Ewe people, that's what they do.
Yes.
So you're basically saying that Joseph, well, again, please bear with me because it's so we've been so brainwashed about this. I've used that term. It's a strong term, but it's true. And so right now it's like you're trying to unravel everything and understand that an entire family was they were people of color.
Yes.
And wow.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that okay, keep going.
So
Yeah.
that is the significance of the severity of what Jacob did. That is what would have warranted his brothers to want to sell him or get rid of him. People kill. We have kings or people killing their siblings just so that they can be king.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And now here we have the eldest would have expected to be the one to be crowned king, to be crowned the leader. But now we have father preferring Joseph over the eldest. Joseph was the second to last born, if I remember correctly.
Wow.
So he wouldn't have been even close to being named the leader amongst them.
Exactly. Wow. So
Right.
the kente cloth, I saw this all through Ghana, and
Yes,
and I saw the men weaving actually. So
absolutely.
really amazing. So
And then
guys,
leave the
kente
cloth.
is Miss Saram is saying it is the Joseph coat of many colors, right?
Mhm.
It's the kente cloth. Okay.
It is. It is. All right, and here we see this. These pictures were taken from a book called "The Ewe People of the Ewe People of German Togoland." It was written by a German anthropologist who spent about 20 years in Ewe land, studying our customs, our history, our judicial system, marital rights, and all that. He was one of the very few who actually took the time to study, because as you know, the other anthropologists would quickly just brand us as savages and with no civilization and all that, which we know is not true. But this Jacob Spears did his part and did document some very factual things. He actually went around interviewing people. So here you have in the picture A, you find Ewe women fetching water from a well, and they're all in this beautiful kente. Well, let me not call it kente because my Ewe people will drag me. So let me call it the kente or vedo. They're in their beautiful kente, and you can see the cloth is durable. They don't look like they're poor people in that kind of cloth. They're not in tattered clothing. This is today, if you try to buy this kind of cloth that they're wearing, you'll spend $1 and more,
I know, Saram, that they have, because they told me that in Ghana, that it's very, very expensive. You can get the knockoffs,
Yes.
but it's very, very expensive even to this
the
day.
authentic ones, and you'll find them. Most of the high quality kete cloth are found within Ewe land. That's where they make them. They have entire towns that the profession of the whole town is to make this cloth. They have one in the Akan area as well. Now, in picture B, you'll see men who are also wearing their kete, their vedo, also very elegantly, and they're just going about their daily business. Here again, we see women at work, and it says Negro women cooking. One woman carrying her child at the back. The wooden plates in the foreground is filled with cut up yams. That's one of our staples, yams. So if you want who eats yams, you know where your home is. Alrighty. So I want to talk about the shofar. Well, what is popularly known as the shofar today? Nowadays, we see.
You're talking about the shofar that the modern Israel, they use the shofar, because I've been in settings and you see the Jewish, those who call themselves Jews at this moment, This is what they use, and it's only associated with them. So what are you coming to tell me now, Saram? What are you doing? What are you saying?
Yes, it's associated with them, and it's associated with that religion. Now, the original shofar is associated with our culture and history. It's not necessarily religious. We use it in religious happenings. However, it's just a cultural thing. We have this horn, and now you'll find the people, the modern Israelites, they use these long, twisted ones. I think they're antelope horns or something like that. But for us, we have the practical ones, the short ones. This is easy to carry around in time of war, easy to blow. You don't need both arms to hold it, to blow it, and all that. So this is what you'll normally find within Africa that is in general use. This is before, people are doing some of the Jewish ways. Okay.
So that it originated with the Ewe people.
Originated from the biblical, the ancient Eves. That's true. It originated.
So the
because even in the story of Joshua and the wall of Jericho, they told them to blow their trumpets, right? So it would have been this. It would have been this, and we still use this in some of our celebrations. This horn. If you see in picture A, you'll see the king is seated and his general standing by his side with a shofar in hand. That's a war horn.
So listen, so I went to see the Maroons in Jamaica, and they have retained a lot of their West African culture, and they still use this today. To today, they call it their bang.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
This is used. So, oh my Lord, wow.
Yes. This is used. You'll find a lot of West African ethnic groups use this in their culture. Now, let's talk about another sign of the Israelites. Another sign of the Israelites is circumcision. What is circumcision anyway? It is when they cut the foreskin of the child or a grown man. The map that you see here is a map of the circumcision rates around the world. Now, this was from a study that was conducted by the World Health Organization in 2006. They were trying to find out who in the world was circumcising, at what age they were circumcising, and they were trying to see if that affected their HIV rates. So they found that most of Africa, let me say sub-Saharan Africa, and the so-called Middle East had high prevalence of male circumcision. In that study, they specifically found that the West Africans had high prevalence of infant male circumcision. Yes, and we still do it today, mostly on the 8th day. But otherwise, if not, then you make sure you get it done before the end of toddlerhood. Otherwise, our people will say, you are a wicked parent.
Okay, so Saram, I have always understood, this is what I understood, that those who are living in what we call Israel today, that they practice male circumcision because they were following Abraham, their father Abraham. That's what was explained to me, and so you're saying that the Ewe people, who are the African people that look like me, that they are following their father Abraham. Oh goodness.
Yes, you'll find them in West Africa, in Southwest Africa. The tradition mandates it. If you ask them, they'll tell you that they're doing it because of their ancestors. And actually, that John Ogilvy did write it in his book, Africa, an Accurate Description, where he even says that when you ask these people why they circumcised their infant boys, they say because our fathers did it, our fathers' fathers did it, and so on and so forth. There was no concrete explanation. It was just because we do it.
So you messing us up right now here. This is. So you have shown us the kente cloth and
Yes.
have said that's the shawl that we know that they wear.
Yes, and it's Joseph's coat of many colors as well.
Joseph coat of many colors. Then you went and talk about the shofar and all these things. They are leading back to Cana. These are the traditions that they took from Canaan.
Yes.
Canaan and came all the way down in West Africa. Oh my
That's
Lord.
right.
And here we are. Now you're talking to us about male circumcision, which we know we associate with the Hebrews, with Israelites.
Right, exactly. You'll find a lot of the Islamized areas also circumcising. But people circumcise because of religion, just like the modern Jews do. They, some of them not all, some of them circumcise because of religion. I have seen a report that has come out that says that some people were campaigning against circumcision even over there. If your ancestors weren't doing a certain thing, at some point you're going to be debating against the rationality of what you're doing. But if your ancestors were doing it and you inherited it and you were told from childhood that if you don't do it, you're not going to find a wife to marry. No, in ethnic culture, if you're not circumcised, we don't give you our women.
Wow. So you're saying that it's a cultural thing. So today
it's
you are showing the connection with the African Ewe tribe to Israel and back to Cana through the cultural practices.
Right.
Through what we wear, what you wear, the kete cloth. You're showing it through the ram's horn, which is nowadays called the shofar. You're showing it to us that historically this is our culture, that our father and father and father, coming from our father Abraham, that's what they did, and we are carrying that on. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. And we always have the evidence in our history and culture book, which is the Bible. That's why you have the scripture down here, which says Genesis 17, verse 9 to 10. And it says, and God said unto Abraham, thou shalt keep my covenant, therefore, thou and thy seed after thee in their generations. This is my covenant, which ye shall keep between me and you and thy seed after thee. Every man child among you shall be circumcised. So definitely the 12 tribes were circumcised, but also Abraham's other wives that he married after Sarah would have circumcised their children as well.
And it's carried on culturally throughout Africa. Oh my goodness, this is amazing. I know we're going to have to stop in about 5 minutes or so, but I know those of you who are in the room, we've had to cut the chat off. Last week we had the chat on, and we had some interruption from people who don't want this information to go out, and they disrupted the meeting. Some of you would remember. So we've had to change our security protocol for the meeting so that we would not have any issues this week. So please pardon us about that. But people are messaging me and they are in total shock about this. But let me just shut up and give you the next 3 to 5 minutes to wrap this all up. Oh gosh.
Okay. So I actually have a lot more slides to go. So we will stop it here. But can I go ahead and just say my final words?
Yes, please do. Please do.
Okay. All right.
Can you at least share one of because it's also shown through your folk, the folklore, the tales, the stories orally. You can also prove this orally, and that really blew my mind. That some
Right.
stories that were passed on. Can you touch that, please?
Some of the stories that were passed on.
Yes.
Okay. Let's see here. Okay. Well, let's talk about the Avenger of Blood. You know the story about the Avenger of Blood in Numbers 34, 35. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead, please.
Okay. All right. So I will talk about that then. This is a cultural point that connects us even further to being the people of the Bible. It's a practice of the Avenger of Blood and the city of refuge. So, and you'll find the story in Numbers chapter 35. Also, now let me give you this scripture in Joshua 21, verse 21. There's a town called Shechem. The town called Shechem is listed as a city of refuge. Shechem means law, or God has pardoned me in the Ewe language. Remember, I told you we still speak the language, the ancient Hebrew. I don't have we don't have the time to go through it right now, but that's even a more solid evidence than even the culture and all that. But yes, then this name means God has pardoned me. And so you have Set and Ken. Now, the scripture says, whoever kills someone deliberately. Now, this would have been punished by death. If you killed someone deliberately, it's punished by death. This is actually not the scripture. This is from the book from Jacob Spies in 1904. He wrote in that book about the Ewe people. He said, whoever kills someone deliberately or inadvertently is usually sold, and the whole family of the culprit becomes indebted. If the culprit, now, if we say they're sold, in African slavery terms, this does not mean chattel slavery. So if the culprit is to be killed, that can only happen if he is handed over to the blood avengers by one of his close relatives, usually the uncle. This is what the German wrote in the late 1800s about the Ewe people. So the uncle is expected to turn the killer over to the avenger of blood. Spears goes on to say that if the uncle doesn't surrender the culprit, then the victim's blood avengers are free to essentially do whatever they want with the entire family. They can destroy their houses and even sell them to others. Now, but if the culprit escapes, he must never return to the town nor his people. A town is named Waya, and it's mentioned as a place of refuge where those running from the avenger of blood. This is talking about the Ewe culture. You would think you're reading the Bible, but it's not. This is what the European wrote. Running from the avenger of blood could go and hide. So there was a town in the Ewe land. It's in Volta region today, and it's called Waya. In those days, someone who was running away after having either most likely accidentally killed someone, they would go hide over there. In the same vein, people who are banished find refuge there. Logically, the avenger of blood should have been able to go there and retrieve the killer, but somehow this isn't happening. The blood avenger does not go into the town of refuge. If he tries, he will be stopped. So we see this also in the Numbers account where the priest keeps the avenger of blood out of the town. According to Numbers, the refugee may only return home after the death of the then high priest. And the same thing with the Ewe custom. Now, Waya nowadays is not a town where, made for people who are running away from something. No, all kinds of people live there. So please don't say, I'm going to go see the murderers in Waya. No, this is a normal town today because, things have changed because of colonization and now being ruled under European law. So, a lot of these traditional laws are, have dwindled to some extent. Okay. So that is it. I think we will stop here, sister.
Wow. Oh my goodness. This is really, really, really amazing. And at this time, I'm going to thank you so much, Saram. I'm just going to open the chat for everyone. I'm just going to open the chat. And if anybody has any questions, I want to thank those who stayed with us. I know some of you are on your lunch break. There are lots of people who plan to watch it, but they're going to watch it later this evening when they're not at work. So if you have any questions, please just write it in the chat for me, please. Go ahead. We are very wary about opening the video because of what happened last week. There are people who are bent on us not getting this information out to people here in the Caribbean, in the diaspora. So so go ahead for me if you have. Do you have any questions? Any questions for anybody? Anybody, you can go ahead. I think it's now enabled where you can ask questions. If you're in here and you want to ask any questions, this is a time, I believe, because we've now made it, we've now enabled it so that you'll be able to do just that. Yes, let me just double check here. Yeah.
I just want to thank Shauna K. Shauna K said, "Thank you, Saram. Me and my family subscribed to your YouTube several months ago, and we saw you on Sister E." Thank you, Shauna. Thank you for your support. God bless you.
Great, great, great. And Patrick Weeks says, Ashanti Queen for this info. I'm not sure what he's saying there. Rochelle is saying, is there a process for us in the diaspora to reunite with our lost family members back home? Do you have anything?
Yes, actually, Minister Only Love has things. She's an organizer and a social worker. So, her social working skills and organization skills are on steroids. So you won't go wrong if you hook up with her. She will set you right.
Yes, and in fact, she has a book that we're going to, I want to ask Kenny to get that ready for us to show the people that you can get some more of this information from that book, and where you can get it on Whirlwind Ministries. Okay, so we're going to show you that. That now I think Kenny's bringing that up on the screen so you can see her book. That's going to come up very, very soon. And somebody says, excellent and accurate explanation of our history. Thank you, Sarma. You have truly opened blinded eyes. Maxine says, I did not get to see the first session. Is that available? Yes, you can find them all on the Marcia Week Show on Facebook, the Marcia Week Show. You can see them on Facebook as well. And they also screen them on Caribvision on Sundays, 1:30 p.m. 1:30 p.m. Great show. Kathy Weeks is saying we'll watch again. And Shauna Leonard, she bought the book. She says her Prophetic Whirlwind book is excellent. So if you want to continue reading up on this and studying this, Prophetic Whirlwind, Uncovering the Biblical Destiny by Only Love Chica Alston. And Dave and I, we have this book, and I mean, we would read it, and I mean, I would cry. I can't say he cries, but I would cry reading it because of just learning so much, And as I said, it's not of us being putting down anyone and saying that, doing any reverse racism or anything like that, is understanding who we are. And so you can get this book, and it's available on Amazon, so you can continue reading. If you're part of a church group, this would be great to do a study and have a robust discussion about it. Research and study. Lisa Niles is saying yes. I think Lisa Niles bought the book as well. Lisa Niles is here in Barbados. Mm-hmm. Rochelle is saying, Marcia, did you know that in Ghana, a gap in your teeth is a sign of beauty? Yes, that's what I was told when I went there. This is after I made appointments so many times at the dentist, Saram, to close it up.
Oh no, it's a blessing.
Yeah, thank you, Rochelle. Thank you. Only Love's book, Prophetic Whirlwind, is a great resource. Someone else from the Caribbean is saying, so Only Love, we're buying up the books here in the Caribbean, and we really need to do that. And as I said, have a study with your friends on it, double check it, fact check, go and check it out. And do your own research. And I think, Sarah, you have your own YouTube channel. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, my YouTube channel is called Hebrew Ivri Ewe Eve, the Black Man. I try to fit in there as many names that we're known by so that it's easy for our people to find it. Yes. But if you type even my name, Saram Adzanku, in YouTube, you should be able to find it easily. Or Hebrew Ewe, you should be able to find it. Now, we don't want to be called Ewe, we want to be called Eve. So, practice your bet. Yes, so I have the YouTube channel. I usually post cultural presentations in there, as well as explanation of the language as it relates to the Bible. This time I've been doing names. So you'll find a lot of names of people in the Bible, and you'll find their correct meaning in the Eve, and they're all scripturally accurate. I also have a Facebook page by the same name, Hebrew Ivri Ewe Eve, the Black Man. And I tend to do write-ups on there. So, some detailed explanations on there.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Thank you. Saram's channel is really educational, informational, and the kids enjoy watching, which is important.
Oh wow, information. That's amazing. Thank you for letting your kids watch it, because when they're out there, the world is teaching them world history. They're not teaching them Hebrew Eve history. So we have to, now we're trying to repair the wrongs and teach ourselves and our children the correct history, so that we know whose we are, where we come from, and know how to behave accordingly. Mm-hmm. So thank you so much for sharing it with your children.
Yes, wonderful. Patrick Weeks is saying Asante. Thank you, Patrick, means thank you. I always thought it was the heart that they were to have circumcised. Okay. So
I'm sorry, what was the question?
I think he's saying he always thought it was a heart that they were to have circumcised, your heart.
So now we're getting into some theology there. So you may want to talk to your pastor about that. Circumcise, from my understanding, circumcising your heart is pretty much just being right with the Most High God. And touch not the unclean thing. You have to overcome your desires, which are contrary to what God wants you to be doing. So that is how you circumcise your heart and be right with God. If you're a believer in Christ, be right with Christ. And that's how I understand it.
Now, and to let's just clarify that today, Saram, she was showing us the cultural similarities with what we see in the Bible and with the Ewe people. And she was very careful to say that some do the circumcision for religious purposes, but the Ewe people, they continue it. The Ewe people continue it because of cultural reasons, because their father Abraham did it, and so it is something that's coming up through the culture. Kwame Kamu is saying from Trinidad. It's going to be one of our speakers next week, and if we could put up the poster for next week, Rastafari speak, and he is going to be one, and he's saying that a question to Sister Saram. He says, gratitude for a fantastic program. Are there workshops available from your community which will allow the Ewe Hebrew culture and customs to be retrieved by the people in the Caribbean, inclusive but not limited to the circumcision? You talk about cloth making, shofar making, setting apart of women, naming ceremonies and customs. He wants to know if there could be some workshops available to people here in the diaspora about, to further discuss what you're talking about.
Right.
For me, Kenny, thank you.
Thank you so much for your question. What you have mentioned is very important because, speaking is one thing, but really coming together with the people on the grounds, wherever our people are, is also important. And I don't know of any going on right now. It is something that we need to work on. I know that there are some groups going to Ghana even. I don't know if any are going to the Caribbean yet. That is a good question for Sister Only Love. And also a gentleman by the name of Ronald Dalton Jr. He is the author and movie producer of the Hebrews to Negro movies and books. And he has been organizing stuff as well. So, reach out to them. There is also Gilbert Kobina with the God Box Foundation. They also have things going on. I don't know if they have anything in the Caribbean, but that is a good question to ask them.
Yes. Yeah, and I thank you so much, Reverend Kwame Kamu. It's a good segue to promote the show for next week, Wednesday at 1 p.m., where we're going to have Reverend Kwame Kamu is the African Reparation Minister for Trinidad and Tobago, and Rasimbo from Barbados. And we also have Maxine Isisto from Trinidad, who will be on as well. And we also have a sister out of Jamaica as well, who's going to be on. I'm sorry, Maxine Isisto is from Jamaica, and she's a journalist and the CEO of Talawa Indigenous. She's going to be on. Maxine from Trinidad. Nazma Muller from Jamaica is going to be on as well. And it's going to be a fantastic discussion, really eye-opening as well, about ganja, about marijuana. In Jamaica, we say ganja. So we're going back to the Caribbean name for it. And that we use, and we're going to talk about reparations. So we're going to ask you to come and join that as well. So thank you, Reverend Kwame, for signing on with us today. Sorry we couldn't open the video, but we have to take some precautions because of what happened last week in this program. Once again, thank you, Shauna Cade saying. I also let everyone know there are sites dedicated for us to use my Bantube, Hebrew Sphere, HebrewConnection.com. So if you're listening, you could go to HebrewConnection.com. Hebrew Connect is on YouTube, and Black History in the Bible, BHITB. Okay, so you can continue learning and continue sharing and researching for yourselves.
Sister, Pastor, I think you mentioned Reverend Kwame Kamal. He mentioned that he would like to partner. So please feel free to give him my contact information.
Oh, definitely. We're working together, the diaspora. We're working together, Africa and the African diaspora. Well, thank you so much, Saram, for taking the time out and for being here and for being so gracious And for, we sat at your feet today, and a lot of things were just, I don't even know what was happening. We were learning and unlearning and relearning today. And I'm hoping that, Saram, that a lot of us will be stirred to go and to research for ourselves, and to get to the, get down into this a bit more, and to gain some more understanding. So once again, we want to thank you for being here with us. We love you, sis. Our queen, she taught us today. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. God bless you, and God bless the people of the Caribbean who are my brothers and sisters.
Oh, that's wonderful. We love it. We love it. We love you. Thank you to everyone who came on, and those who are watching on Facebook, and those who are going to watch a replay. I know some people had to stop and run off to back to work, because it's in the middle of the day, but we're going to have it on the Marcia Week show, and you'll be able to see it again. Thank you so much for coming. God bless you. Please share the link, even with people who weren't able to come on today. And, send us a note through Facebook, or at info@the Marcia Week show if you have any further comments or questions. Thank you so much, and see you next week when we deal with Ganja reparations, and which is the second in our series, Rastafari Speak. Thank you so much. God bless you. Bye-bye.